I'm Nadine Matheson, host of The Conversation, and I know you're keen to get on with the show and watch my conversation. But before we do, I have one small request. Can you please hit the subscribe button? You might already have done so, but if you haven't, hit the subscribe button now. Takes a second, less than a second. Right, thank you very much, and let's get on with the show. Adele Parks, welcome to The Conversation.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. I mean, I do live in a perpetual state of excitement. That is what I'm known for. But I actually am very excited for this because we had to book it so far in advance.
I know. I was looking at my dates and I was thinking, I think we booked this back in June.
We did.
Oh,
so
July.
I am
It was so
properly excited.
Yeah. And we are recording this in December, but you are my last interview for December, and I can't think of a better way to end 2025 than by talking to you. Right, Adele, my first question for you is, because the question I really like to ask now is, when did you know that you were a storyteller?
When I was about 5. Well, actually, if I'm really brutally honest, or not brutally honest, if I'm just completely honest, I don't remember a time when I wasn't a storyteller.
Really?
That was the first thing that is my first memory, me making up stories either for myself or my sister. And not just because I'm a little liar or something and avoiding getting into trouble by my parents. But I used to make up stories when we were decorating the Christmas tree. I would make up stories about what the Christmas decorations had been doing all year while they were asleep. While we walked to school, I would see a bird and I would have a conversation with the bird and make that story up. When I was a little girl, we used to live in a house where we shared a bedroom and bunk beds. And then as we got a bit older, we got separate rooms because we moved house. And I was devastated and really wanted to be back in my sister's bedroom because she's big sister and I adore her. So I told her that I knew I had private access to Enid Blyton's stories for what happened to Mary in Mallory Towers and St. Clair's in the holidays. And I would tell her if she let me back in her room. And so, yes, I've always known stories could buy my way into popularity or entertainment, call it what you will. I knew it was how all kids have got a thing. They might be good at sports or they might be very academic or whatever. I entertained.
I'm just going back to Mallory Tower. I love Mallory Towers and St.
Yeah,
Clair's.
you see, the big story of that is she was so, I was like Magic Faraway Tree and all those, like Wishing Chair and all those. And my sister was Mallory Towers and St. Clair's. And she was one day really upset because she'd finished the lot. And she was so upset the way books can move you. And that's when I saw my moment. And I said, oh, but I know what happens in the holidays. And she's like, tell me, how do you know? And I made up this whole story about Enid Blyton sending me manuscripts to test what we thought of them. I don't know. Mary, also, can I say Enid Blyton was already dead at that point. So my sister could have done more research.
Oh, you're on the grave.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
I love it. I always wanted to have a midnight feast. Because they always had midnight feast in Mallory Towers. I never had a midnight feast. I think I tried and then it didn't happen.
Yeah, no, we definitely did. Like if we had friends with sleepovers, we had midnight feasts. And you wouldn't do it now, would you? Because you grab your kid out of bed and go, right, now you need to clean your teeth again.
Well, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of work. And I'm pretty sure my parents were like, what are you doing in the fridge at this time? Get back to bed.
Yeah, no, we used to literally squirrel it out in advance. I'm sure they knew. Squirrel it out in advance, hide it in the bedroom. And I remember it was this girl, Joanna. So it was me, my sister, and Joanna. And we used to, the three of us, have these midnight feasts. And we thought it was amazing.
Your storytelling. Was it encouraged in school? Because a lot of times when we have these conversations on the podcast, it either goes in two camps where teachers recognize it and encourage it, or they don't. And that gift that you have, it's just not encouraged. And there's no incentive for you to pursue it or see where it can go.
No, I was really lucky. So I went to just, like a state local primary school and then a local comp in the northeast of England in Teesside, which now is one of the areas that the National Literacy Trust and the government concentrate on very hard because the literacy levels are so poor. So I always talk about the fact that I'm from that area because my experience, generation ago was two generations ago was very, very different. And I was very much encouraged by just passionate teachers who I say I was encouraged. I can't remember being discouraged, which honestly
Yeah.
for a child brought up in the 1970s, is pretty much the same thing. We weren't
Yeah.
lavish on praise in the 1970s or 80s, but nobody said you can't do that. And I remember my mom and dad, when I said I wanted to be a writer, whether they thought it was realistic or not, they never said, well, that's a stupid idea. They just sort of went, great, that's good to have ambitions, work hard. I think they sort of thought, good to like go and get your GC, well, O levels in those days, O levels and A levels, and have a backup. But they never nobody discouraged me.
Mm.
And I was definitely known as quite the girly swot at school. And I was known for reading, and I was known for telling stories and like making up plays. And I used to write plays and get all my friends to put them on. And they all did it. I mean, can you imagine that in your local comp now? And everyone watched them. Everyone used to come and, like at lunchtime, I've done a play, and a load of kids would just come and watch it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
We didn't do like plays like just on a random Thursday, but I did when it was Christmas time.
Yeah.
I did write the Christmas play,
Amazing.
which was I loved it. And
Yeah.
the thing is, I didn't need to be in it. I was like, no, I'm fine. I always
Yeah.
said I would never be an actress, but I would definitely be behind the camera.
Yeah.
So I was happy
And the
to write it.
words and the
Yeah.
story. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
I
think
love that.
I look back at my childhood. I mean, at the time, like I think everybody's childhood at the time, I remember thinking, stories were actually, we lived a little bit further away from all the other friends, all the other people at school. So I didn't have round the door friends. I didn't really
Yeah.
have friends, which sounds so tragic. So books and books and stories were my friends rather than people. But it wasn't a problem. It didn't seem, I mean, what I'm trying to say is I had a great childhood. I look back and I think,
Yeah.
well, wasn't I lucky that I was that bored? Because I was bored because all my mates were, 2 miles away. And if you're walking 2 miles as a child, that's probably not something you're allowed to do or you can do in the countryside. You know what I mean? But I look back now and go, yeah, I was bored, so I made up stories. And if I wasn't writing plays, I was writing newspapers or literally sitting behind a cardboard box, pretending I was on TV, presenting a story time or Jack and Ori or some nonsense. So yeah, loads of fun.
I
You're laughing now, wanting to be
No,
in my
I'm
childhood.
laughing. I'm just laughing because I just remember when I would say I was bored and the response is from my parents, go and get a book. It's either go out
Yeah.
and play because
Yeah.
it's the 80s and the
Yeah.
kids just went out and played.
Yeah.
So go out and play or get a book.
Yeah.
So I was always reading, just read. And if I couldn't find a book, I would pick up the paper, I'd pick up letters.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted to read something.
Absolutely. Also, way better than them giving you a job, which was
Yeah.
the other thing they did, wasn't they? Like, if I said I was bored, my mum would go, "Oh, you could clean out the downstairs cupboard," and I'd be like, "No, it's all right. I'm going to read."
I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm not bored
I'm not that
anymore.
bored.
I found something to do.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
how would you describe your publishing journey?
I think very simple, actually, in comparison to many, many people. So I started writing. So whilst I always wanted to be a writer, I didn't actually know what to write about or have enough stories or have enough confidence or whatever it might have been. But I started what people would call a real job in advertising. And I did that from being sort of 22 to 30, and I loved it and I did pretty well in it. But all the time I was writing in my free time. And in my mid to late 20s, very sadly, I had a number of deaths in my family, colleagues and friends. And it was in a very, very short time, sort of within a year, we lost 11 people.
What,
And
11?
they were 11 in a year. And
Wow.
they were quite horrific because there was a suicide, there was a murder, there was a friend who died of AIDS and her baby died of AIDS. So there was a lot for a mid-20-something to deal with.
You're just dealing with yourself.
That's what I mean. I was the mid-20-something. Yeah, just I couldn't. And because also the deaths in the family were impacting on my family, there wasn't anyone to talk to because everybody was carrying this weight of grief and things. So I took myself off to a grief counsellor, and I think it was the best move of my life. I mean, at the time it seemed really odd because now everyone goes to counselling and it's not a thing, but not a problem. But then it was sort of like slightly odd. Why don't you have someone to talk to? Why Why can't you work this out yourself? That sort of thing. But anyway, I did it. And this very incredible woman encouraged me to do what I loved, that I could actually control, that was outside of all this grief. And she suggested that could be gardening, that could be baking a cake. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be doing a jigsaw. And I said, oh, actually, I enjoy writing. And whenever I write, I'm calm and I'm focused and I'm centered. And I can communicate and I can believe there's a bigger world out there. And she went, well, that sounds like a gift. Lucky you. Go and do that. So I started right then taking it massively seriously. And I wrote my first novel, which was called Playing Away. But interestingly, my novel was the exact opposite to what was going on in my life. So my life was sort of drenched in this pain and this weight of sadness and not seeing a way through. And I wrote about this scatty woman and her beautiful friends and her beautiful wardrobe and her great house and her hot husband and her even hotter lover. And I just gave her a great time, you know? And it was escapism. And it was the best escapism because it was just me going, wow, wouldn't life be lovely if it was this? And I wrote that book. And on the eve of my 30th birthday, I sent it to a cold call, really. I approached an agent, and this will make you laugh now. I approached Johnny Geller, who is now obviously just dropped. I approached Johnny Geller, who at that time was also in his 20s and young, you know, and just starting up his career. And I'd seen him like thanked in the back of a few of the books I liked. So I thought, well, he sounds really nice and approachable, which he is. And now, of course, he's the biggest agent in town, arguably. You know, he's huge and he runs all Curtis Brown. Anyway, I sent my book to him on the eve of my 30th birthday. And then I traveled back to the northeast of England to have time with my family. And at the end of the weekend, I came back down to London and there was this light flashing on my answering machine. And it was Johnny saying, I love the book. I'd like to meet. And genuinely, he then took it to 6 publishers. The 6 publishers all accepted it and they had a bidding war.
Wow.
So I literally had, from this horror and this weight and this sadness and this literally doused in pain, I found this sort of way through, 18 months it took, but way through to produce this joyful book that resonated, I hope, and I know, with lots of people. And yeah, I always think if you believe in angels, if you believe in someone looking out for you, if you believe in karma, I don't know what people believe in, and I believe everyone can believe what they like. Yeah. But for me, I think somebody was looking down and kind of going, go on then, babes, I've got your back. I'm looking out for you here. Yeah. This is going to be fine. This is going to be your moment and things are going to be a bit easier from now on in. And yeah, he took it and off we went. And the rest, as they say, is history.
I always, you know, you talk about whether you believe in, and it was my older cousins and I was 17 and I think he was 35 or 36 when he died. But you know, it's like with your older cousins, or your older brother. I don't have brother, I'm the oldest, but
he was like an older brother.
Yeah. So, and he would say, you know, I'd look after you. He's like, don't worry, Nadine, you'll be all right. I'll look after you. And so even when he died, and I always feel like no matter if it's, you know, things are going up, things are going down, or you're like, I can't believe this has happened and this is not the plan I had for myself. I always hear him say, you'll be all right. You'll be fine. So I feel like you do.
And I think whatever you believe in, the one thing everybody sort of believes in is love. And that you're talking about is your cousin saying, I love you, so you're going to be all right. And you still love him. You live the memory of him. So that's all right. And I think that does get us through a lot of very difficult times.
But you know that moment, if you say you returning home and seeing the flashing light on your machine, I'm like, it's and so quintessential, like late 90s, like early, just that.
I know, it was literally, it was 1999 and I was published in the year 2000. And I literally remember just playing this like over and over again, this message, and crying with the emotion and because I knew once I had an agent, and I didn't quite know how big that agent was going to turn out to be and how important he was going to be. But I just liked him. And, you know, I hadn't met him even at that point, but I just liked his taste. I liked his voice. As soon as we did meet, we clicked. It was all good.
You know, it's a weird question to ask, but did you know that first book that you wrote, did you know it was good? Did you instinctively feel something like this is...
I feel really vain going, No,
I don't think it's vain.
I did know.
Good to know.
Yeah, so it seems weird now because we've had, you know, so, you know, it is 25 years ago. And so the market
Yeah.
has changed and things. But at that time, there was a lot of sort of quite light romances, which rudely got rebranded chick lit. But let's go
Yeah.
with light romances. But there's nothing easy about writing a light romance. To make people laugh or smile is actually very tricky. And to talk about love, which is something we've all experienced, therefore we all have a judgment on. So writing love is tricky. So I'd read, Bridget Jones' Diaries, which are hilarious, but they are about love. And I'd read Marion Keyes and all those great people I absolutely adore. So mine was in that genre, which is obviously very different from the dark genre I write in now, psychological thrillers. But mine had this kind of, I'm going to go with dirty, edgy twist, because there was this girl young woman, but she had this perfect life, which everybody in the chick lit world wanted to achieve. And she had it, and then she fudged it up. I'm going with fudged it, in case anybody is
I would have let you say the other word.
offended
It's fine.
with me using a four-letter word. But she messes it up because she has this filthy hot affair. Now, first, writing about a filthy hot affair is a lot of fun. Second, apparently it's a lot of fun to read as well. Must be, because 400,000 people have bought that book. Like, people went out and bought that book in their droves, and it was shocking. I mean, the tagline was, "The closest you'll ever get to an affair without actually having one." And it was shocking. And people over the years have still write to me and say, "I nearly had an affair and I read this and it stopped me." Or they say, "I had an affair and I read this and oh my God, you nailed it." Or they say, "You're so shocking, you must have had an affair." All of these responses are brilliant, because it shows how powerful that book was. But I did know it was good. I knew people would react to it. I knew people would be moved, shocked, excited, angry. I expected them to cry, and I knew they'd go on Connie's journey. Connie being the lead.
When I realised you were big, I say you were big, it's because when your book came out, I was still working in books, etc.
Yeah.
Because I think I was doing I must have been doing my masters, but I was still working there on a Saturday, and I always said it was my favorite Saturday job. And you would see books come in, and then back then you'd get the proper like displays. Do you remember, like, in the bookshop?
Yeah.
Yeah, not just like you're on a table. You had a full-on display, and there was a full-on display. And I remember those displays happening with, if it was like a John Grisham book, or when Bridget Jones came out, or then when not the first Harry Potter, I think like when the second and third Harry Potters came out, then the displays started getting big. But I remember the display for your books, and it was constantly coming in, always in the stockroom. I'm like, we've got more Adele Parks. We've got more Adele Parks. Maybe I should read it.
Oh, that's adorable. Actually, Books, Etc. I have a lovely memory of Books, Etc. There was a huge Books, Etc. on Piccadilly. Yeah. And I remember walking past and looking at the window, and there were these, I think 2 or 3 deck chairs, because it was in the summer, deck chair. Yeah. Now, bearing in mind, I didn't come out in the summer, so this was a long tail of, when the book might be around, of deck chairs. And all that was in that window was my book. So there was piles and piles of books all the way around the deck chairs, and near the deck chairs, and on the deck chairs, and the deck chairs were the colour of the cover. So I went in to go, oh my gosh, did the publishers ask you to do this? What's happened? And this young woman, probably somebody very much like yourself, just said, "No, I love your book." And so I just put this window together. And in those days, now, I don't think it's a surprise to any listener, but now all window displays are negotiated, paid for, the publishers asked for. But that was just some creative young woman giving me these huge window space. She was just like, "This book is phenomenal. I love it. I love it. I love it." And I think there must have been like 500 copies of my book in that window. And of course it sold. And that was in the summer. And my book had come out in like the early spring. Yeah. So that long tail, weeks and weeks and weeks in the chart, word of mouth, all of those, it was a really precious thing. And that's why I say, I think my publishing journey was quite simple. And since I've written a book every year. Funny enough, Connie and her gang that was in that first book, I've revisited sort of 4 times, including this very last book, including my 25th book, because I wanted to give her that journey, that story. Yeah. I've moved her from her flighty, happy life even then when I was messing out for her, I've moved her into deep, dark psychological thrillers with Lies, 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 and with Our Beautiful Mess. Her and her gang of friends have had to really grow up and put up with quite a lot of very dark and bad stuff, but they're fine. They're fine. They do that.
They're
They
okay.
manage, you know, they're tough women. But I believe that longevity and that love for the characters all came from gorgeous booksellers like yourself way back when, backing it. And I think that has been the joy of my career. I think I've been very looked after by a lot of really decent people, whether that's librarians, whether that's bloggers writing reviews, whether that's my phenomenal publishing teams. All those people have been part of the story. And so whilst it seems simple to me, it's because there are a lot of people grafting very hard.
Yeah. It was, when you're talking about the windows, it was different because I
It
remember
was.
I didn't have to ask anyone. I didn't have to ask the manager or
Yeah.
my supervisor if the books came in and if I wanted to do a display, I just did a
Yeah.
display, which is why I suppose it would be quite, sometimes it was quite random. You'd see
Yeah.
something one week and the next week, I remember doing one for it wasn't Jurassic Park, for Lost World. Just
Yeah.
basically taking full of dinosaurs.
Yeah.
but, but we had independence in that
Independence,
sense.
and your creativity was allowed to flourish,
Yeah.
and there was real discoverability. Not that I'm
Yeah.
saying that, there isn't that now, but I think the other thing at the very beginning of my career, we had books, etc., that you've mentioned. Obviously, we have Waterstones, which we still have. We had Otakos. There were a lot of independents. Actually, the good news is there are a lot of independent bookshops now. I mean, I think there's a belief that they're all closing down. They're not. Independent bookshops are actually opening and flourishing because I think people want that personal experience where they go to a bookshop and they talk to the bookseller, and the bookseller might recommend something that they personally enjoy that isn't necessarily being discovered by, a huge prize winning
Yeah.
they're not being flagged by Reese Witherspoon, or they're not being flagged by Oprah, or they're not being flagged by Rich and Judy. They're just books that bookseller enjoys, and therefore individual readers can get that discoverability. And you can also go to independent bookshops and meet authors, and I think there is a lot of joy to that. Obviously, we still are thrilled that we actually still do have Waterstones, which is at least one chain retailer still.
Yeah, I always say one of my favorite memories, like early memories, is it's such a sign of the 80s though. It's like going up to the market with my mum, and there was a small bookshop on the top of the high street, and on market day, she would just let me, off you go. You can go into the bookshop because that's what I want
Yeah,
to do. I want to go into the bookshop. This
yeah,
is why I'm taking myself out of my bed and I've gone to
yeah.
the market with my mum.
That's
But
so funny because
yeah,
I
we
thought you
can
were going
go
to say,
shopping.
yeah. So my market day thing was there was actually a market stall for books, and you could
Mm,
get the books and then you could take them back the next week and you got half the money back in credit to buy some more books. So say a book cost 50 pence, you
yeah,
would pay your 50 pence. The next week you came back, you were given 25 pence credit towards your next book.
that's so good.
So it was really good. I mean, probably not that good for authors or
No,
publishing houses,
but
but
it
really good
encourages.
for, yeah, really good for poor working class people who wanted to buy
Yeah.
books and have books in their house. And that's what worked for us. And that was fantastic. And I think and I remember my mum getting a load of books. We always have books in our house, and
Yeah.
her coming home every week with those. We went to libraries a lot. We're very lucky.
But when you had that success with your debut, do you think you were prepared for the success that
Ah,
came with it?
that's a good
Or did you
question.
even not think about it? Just
Well, I think in
was on
those
this
days,
train.
success was really different because
Mm.
you only found out once a year if you'd been successful. I'm not even kidding. So nowadays, do you know what I mean? Like everything is how many likes are you getting on your posts? What are your
Yeah.
reviews on Amazon? What are your weekly sales figures? Where are you in the charts? All those things. So I kind of was aware, oh, look, I'm in the charts. I've been in the charts for 12 weeks in the top 10. Isn't that exciting? But I didn't have a benchmark to know what that meant. I'd
Mm.
been given in advance, so I thought kind of, oh, there I am, I've been paid. I didn't know if they expected me to be in the charts, if they didn't expect me to be in the charts. And it wasn't until the kind of yearly royalty statement that I went, oh, wow, look, people are reading my book. I don't
Yeah.
think it really, which makes me sound quite stupid actually, but I don't think it really, I remember Johnny and my editor saying, this is doing really well. And I go, great. But I'd still just be talking about the next book. And the next story, I don't think I was as involved or as interested in what was going on with the sales. I just wanted to prepare a new book and get on with the next thing. And inside of all of this as well, and I think this does matter because I think authors are so intrinsically linked. Their personality is so intrinsically linked to work, and their personal life is so intrinsically linked to the work. But within the sort of first year of my book coming out, I also had my baby, and my husband and I split up. So I actually had a lot of other things going on. So I don't think I felt successful. I don't think I was aware. It was just like, great, look, I've been paid. There is money. I am not going to be homeless. I think that, me and my baby are going to be okay. And I think that was what was in my head about right now I'm a single mom and I'm a writer. Is that a sensible choice? Am I going to manage? Which is why I think I was focusing on the next story and the next story and the next story. And I think that's why I got into the vibe of writing a book a year, because I was very aware that when you deliver your book, you get paid. Yay! So I don't think I was slushing around drinking champagne and going, aren't I successful? I think I do a lot of that now, by the way. It's fabulous.
Yeah, but it's like, I think 25 years in, you're entitled to it.
At the time, I was just this young, slightly shocked woman. Bearing in mind, it wasn't that many years out after all the grief I'd gone through.
Yeah,
there was still a lot going on in my world.
In a funny way, though, it probably was beneficial to have, even though you don't want all that stuff going on in your world, but to have all that stuff going on in your world so you can, in a sense, compartmentalize and not be so emotionally invested in the outcome of what's happening with your book.
I think what was really marvelous about suffering young is you're grateful for anything else that comes along that's good. And I live my life, I hope, in as much gratitude as I can humanly manage. I'm sometimes just a total bitch, and we need to admit that. And a real whinge, and and I'm like anyone else. I have a day where I go, that's not working out for me, and I'm grumpy and I'm all that. But when I take a deep breath and a step back, I just remember I am so lucky. And I know it because I have had a lot. I've had stuff. And because I've had stuff, I am now super grateful for when it's good. And I think that has really set me in a good place, because if you get a great one that goes wild and people say it's changing their life, fantastic. If you get one that isn't doing so well and you feel that you're hand selling every last copy, okay. You can make, I can make either one work, because it's not life and death.
It's funny. Yesterday, I wrote a Substack piece, and it was basically about about comparison, and how when we get to this time of the year, everyone's comparing themselves against other writers and what they can see on their Instagram feed, whether they're in the bestsellers chart or they've got a new deal. And I say it's just part and parcel, unfortunately, of being a writer, of that being in that space of comparison. And my solution to it is just you have to ignore it. It's not saying you can't appreciate and be grateful for the successes of your writer's friend, but if you want, you need to focus on what you need to do.
I think that's so true. I think finding joy in other people's success is a big life hack. It's a really good thing, because then you're always jolly, because somebody somewhere has always been successful. But if you're pissed off with somebody else's success, you will always be miserable, because somebody somewhere has always been successful. So I believe it's a good idea to go, okay, great. And not go, oh, they got lucky, but to think, how much work did they do to do that? Also to remember they have stuff going on in their lives. It isn't how it's presented on Instagram. That is hilarious that you said that, because I had a little moment this morning where I saw it on Instagram and it niggled me, and it really did. And it sort of just poked me, and I thought, and I had a bit of a grumble about it to my editor, and my editor then put it in context, and I went, oh, sorry for being a stroppy teen, thank you very much. And I had to eat some humble pie because I got proper context. And none of us, we're all human, none of us can be perfect all the time. But I know so I've been asked in the past, I only present good stuff on my Insta. Not because I'm trying to say my life is perfect. I'm not. But because even my life is always very, very good compared to people who can't afford food, can't afford heating, who haven't
Yeah.
got basic human rights, who are not allowed to go to school because of their gender. There are a lot of real struggles out there. So I feel as an entertainer, going back to what I've always seen myself as,
Mm.
if I have a social media, it is social. It is it is not what my private dialogue with my husband, with my mum and dad, with my sister. It is who I can whinge to. It is the public face saying, I'm here to cheer people up. I'm here to entertain people. So quite often I will go, hey, I went to a party. If you read me very carefully, because I'll never tell a lie, people will go, that looked as though it was amazing. And you'll see my response. It might be like, yeah, I stayed for an hour. And then that one wasn't amazing. Or, oh my God, I can't remember leaving. That one was good.
That
You know
was a
what I
good
mean?
time.
And I'll never tell a lie on Insta. I will show, but I will try and show the positivity. But I am aware that that can trigger other people
Yeah.
inadvertently. It's not meant to. I try and not do this is what I've been bought, or this is what I've been sent, or this is where I am on the charts. I don't think that's useful for people, but I do tend to go, this is my nice new dress. I think people like a nice new dress.
They
I think
do. I
that's
mean, my last post, other than the podcast episode, it was, this is the Star Wars battles taking place on my Christmas trees, because this is the stuff that
yes,
entertains me. So
yeah,
that on my
yeah,
Instagram, I want to
amazing,
share that with
yeah,
you.
yeah.
You don't
And
need
lots
to
of
see
people love
me
that
in
because
hospital
that's
2 weeks ago.
yeah, and that's already given me an insight into you going, oh my God, she's a Star Wars fan. Oh, what
Yeah.
decorations must she have? Oh, my husband would like those decorations. There's a lot of like relatability and it's adorable.
But that's the thing, yeah, because someone in the comments went, where did you get the ornaments from? I'm like, oh, go to Hallmark and
Exactly.
you can get the ornaments.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's Adele, when you look back, like, over your 25 books, are there moments, I'm sure there must be, are there moments in that 25 book career where you were like, I don't know if I can do this again, because maybe that book you wrote it didn't do what you thought it was going to do?
Yeah, I have had ones that have I've thought like so my historical books, I've written two historical books and
Yeah.
it's set in the World War One and just a little in the aftermath, a little bit after the World War One. And I love those books. And I researched them for 4 years while writing other books. And I put my heart and soul into them. And I genuinely think they are they're certainly some of my best writing. But not everyone likes a historical book. So where I was selling, a good 100 to 200,000 copies of my in the first sort of 6 months, year of all my contemporary books,
Mm.
it suddenly dropped down. It's like half of that, a third of that. And I couldn't understand it because I was like, but these are the really good books. And
It's
honestly,
you would have thought.
and I'd done the 4 years research and, and everybody was reviewing them really well. And anyone who was reading them were loving them. And then I thought, hang on, this isn't about me or my books. It's about what people like to read. And not everybody
Mm.
wants to, a lot of people like to read contemporary books because they imagine themselves in it. And not everybody wants to read historical because they can't imagine themselves in it. So I was like, okay, that's not, that's nothing to do with me. But it did gave me food for thought. Would I write another historical book? Yeah, because I loved it. But would my publishers want me to write another historical book? Possibly not. Do you know what I mean? It's quite
Yeah, I do.
interesting. So there's things like that you have to think about in your career. There are also times when like really odd things have happened. Like, I don't know, I got a certain promotion. I don't know if you're allowed to say what promotions are what, but I got a promotion, which was a really good deal. And it meant that my books were going to be selling for a super cheap price. But it happened over Easter weekend. And for whatever reason, because it was Easter weekend, none of the marketing arrived to the supermarket to say that this deal was happening. So whilst my book was available for £3.50, so it should have flown off the
It has
shelves,
flown off. Mm.
it just didn't. So then they went, oh, look how many books we've had to return. We don't think we'll stock you next year. And we're like, no, it's
No,
your
that's
fault because you didn't get the marketing up.
oh.
So that kind of thing, you just have to go, okay, so that is life. That is, it
Mm.
was Easter weekend. The marketing didn't get where it should have been at the right time. Take a deep breath. That weekend was a really tough weekend because, if you've been in the game long enough, I knew what that would mean in terms of was chart position and what chart position means for sell on and long tail for your book and word of mouth. And it was a really good book that I loved. So I was sad, but I remember that weekend thinking, right, you're going to have to put on your big girl pants and get out there and still tell people about it and go to events and, look at your other ways of selling out to your public. So yeah, there have been disappointments. And in America, I'm only, would you believe, 25 years into my career, I'm doing my very first tour in America next year in February.
See, that's crazy, isn't it? But you're not.
But
you're not the first, and say you're not the first, like I'll say, big name author in the UK who, I'm not saying struggling, but haven't had the same recognition or the same traction.
No, because it's really personal. It's a different market. We think it's the same market because it's English speaking.
It's not.
But it's different because different humor, different fashions, different publishing houses. Now I have actually got the same publishing house. So I'm HarperCollins in the UK and I'm HarperCollins in America. And I think that's helped because they now get me. They understand me. They understand the work I'm prepared to put in. They understand how I market, all those things. So for 5 or 6 years, they've been really supporting me and we've seen the sales. And now the sales are robust enough to justify a tour. But it has taken 25 years of my life to get to that. Call me the Robbie Williams of novels because, America is hard to crack.
Speaking of Robbie Williams, he had his, God, I can't remember what it's called now. He had his movie. Like
the one with the monkey.
Yeah, the one with the monkey.
Man, it was brilliant.
I can't remember what it was called. And I remember they was talking about it on the radio, and I think they were talking to American. They're like, well, it didn't do anything in the States. They're like, well, we don't know who Robbie Williams is. Like,
but
why is he a thing?
No,
I haven't seen it.
Oh my gosh, it was a brilliant movie. It was a brilliant movie. And I remember watching that. And honestly, if you're in the arts, you see a lot of things that you think, oh, that was quite average, but did so well.
Yeah.
Because it got the right wave, it just whatever. And then you see a lot of things that are absolutely phenomenal and don't do as well. And that's just the arts. Actually, that's just life. I don't believe there is a sort of, this is an even scale. There isn't, when your kids go, oh, life's not fair. Yeah, that's not fair. The answer always is, well, life isn't.
Life is not.
You know what I mean? But, not that I'm crying in a bucket for Robbie, but honestly, I thought it was a really interesting movie. But I am a Robbie fan. I think you have to be a Robbie fan
to be into it.
Yeah, to be into a monkey being Robbie. I think you have to be a Robbie fan. Yeah.
What was it like a deliberate decision to switch? I'm saying switch to like the psychological thrillers, or was it just something? I remember talking to Dorothy Coomson because she's like a similar in terms of, I say, career path to you in terms of she started off with like romantic comedies in the beginning, and then it's now she's in
family dramas
exactly.
No, I would say with me the deliberate switch was definitely the historical. That was definitely a moment of going, my books are really, it's so vain, I'm embarrassed I'm going to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I thought my books were really good. They are. So while
you need that confidence.
You need that confidence, but they would never get reviews in broadsheets because they were romantic comedies. So you might get reviews in women's magazines or in weeklies, or you might get a daily newspaper. So I thought I will write a historical, and because I will get noticed by the powers that be. And it was true. I did. I got great reviews in the broadsheets. I started to get invited to things like Cheltenham Book Festival and some of the sort of more established, prestigious literary people started to notice me. Hay invited me. So they started to notice me and read my books and went, oh, you can write. I was like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
You can write.
So that was all good. So, but as I say, the sales didn't really support it. So then I had this dilemma of going, right, my sales don't support historical, but I'm getting kudos and I'm getting noticed and I'm getting, that sort of traction that's necessary. What can I do? I didn't want to go back I always sort of joke, but you shouldn't joke. If you've killed 75,000 men before breakfast in a battle, I did not do that, but that did happen. And it was reflected in the book I wrote. It is very hard to go back to light romantic comedies because, you've gone to those darker places. Plus, I was a much more established, happy person in my 40s than I had been in my 30s because of the things we've talked about. So by the time I was in my 40s and I had written about war and I was feeling personally quite confident and comfortable and happy, I felt I could go to darker places. And so psychological thrillers didn't scare me the way they would have done when I was borderline depressed and certainly grief-stricken.
Yeah.
I could go there and know I was writing a book and I was still entertaining and I could pull back again. So I could take my twisty-turny plots and just murder someone.
Right. I mean, I clearly have no problem doing that.
You have no problem. Oh my gosh, you're so dark. Yeah. You're so light. You know what I mean? You're so jolly and happy. You're going, yeah, okay, let's go there.
Actually, I think there's a point. I think if I wasn't this way how I am in my life, I don't think I could write the things I do.
Because you feel personally very safe, I imagine.
Yeah.
I think you're a very grounded human being. And therefore, reading about this sort of stuff or writing about this sort of stuff doesn't threaten you. You know where you are in the world. Where I think when I was in a more vulnerable place, that would have scared the bejesus out of me, as my husband that's his phrase, the bejesus. I didn't do that. So it wasn't really, I didn't sit down and think, right, what should I write next? I just sort of thought, the personally where I am as a human being, this seems to talk to me. I tend to write the story I want to write, and then I let other people market it. Do you know what I mean? I give it to the publisher.
That makes sense. You know what? I think when you think of it that way, it takes a lot of pressure off you because, there's so much information out there now, which is the benefit of being in this time, this digital age. So there's so much information that you could easily go online and type in Google, how do I write a psychological thriller? And you might feel tempted to stick beat by beat by beat by beat. And it forces you to maybe write a different story to the one that you intended. Yeah. Whereas if you say you just write the story and let the marketing sort out how they're going to do it, it takes pressure off you.
Yeah, and I'm quite a Luddite anyway. We're pleased I've got a phone. We're thrilled when I do an Instagram post. We're very proud of me. I don't, when people went, there's TikTok, I was like, no, you're kidding me. I just don't think there's room in my life. So I haven't done that. And I think I stopped developing sort of on tech after Instagram, which can I say I shouldn't be proud of. I should be keeping up.
Fine.
But it does mean I am not particularly aware of of that kind of thing, because that's not what makes me tick. What makes me tick is I see somebody and I think, I think I know what you might be thinking. I connect. I feel that. I want to write about that, because we're all really human. In the end, we're so human, and we forget that is the thing we all have in common, right? We have a couple of things. We're born, we die. That's what we have in common. Everything else in between, we should try and make more connections, not more divisions. And I genuinely believe that. So for me, writing is just about communicating, connecting, saying, this is kind of what I think about stuff. Does anyone else does this resonate? Yeah. And then when readers go, yeah, it really does. That is my best moment. So if I had got that through some technology, I would deprive myself of that moment, because that's what I'm doing it for.
When you wrote that first psychological thriller book, were you conscious of the readers and how they would respond? Like, were you waiting for the outcome, or were you just like, I've written a book?
I didn't even know it was a psychological thriller. So I wrote a book that I did, I thought, I've pushed this relationship drama, somebody died. Yeah. And so all my books, whether they're relationship dramas, whether they're romances, whatever, historical, whatever, they will have twists in them, because I think that's entertainment. I think that's what books do. Not all books. Some books are, an exploration of character or a journey, an arc for a character or something. But mine genre books tend to be about twists.
Yeah.
So I just had a little bit more scary people in it, like characters that would just go a little bit further and a little bit unhinged. And I just thought I was having a bit of fun with that. And when I delivered it, all my team, my publishing house just went, "Oh my gosh, you've gone so dark. This is a psychological thriller." I went, "Is it?" And then they were saying things like, "Oh, you could be invited to Harrogate, the crime festival." I was like, "Can I?"
Can I?
Because there are great people there. And I think in my head, it was just going to be like, that'd be amazing because, I know lots of people who do that. But
Yeah.
I didn't. And I went up on did panels where I'd say, I don't know if I should really be sat here. I don't know if I'm writing crime. I don't know if I'm writing thrillers yet. So it sort of dawned on everyone else before it dawned on me that that's what I was doing. So I don't think I was worried about what my readers would think, other than any more or less than I would with any other genre.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you know why I think psychological thrillers like work and why people are drawn to them? Because when I can only relate it back to practicing criminal law, and I say like the darkest moments, and it's not like the scary things like you see in the films. It's like the normal
Yeah.
things, the everyday moments in people's lives that suddenly just turn
The
because
peculiar
someone said
cruelty.
something.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
those little moments, and
Yeah.
I think anyone can pick up a book, and when they're reading those moments, they're like, that could easily be
Yeah.
me
That could
if
happen to
I'd
me.
some." Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's so true. And that's why we like to explore them at
Mm,
a distance. I think that's why we like to read them, because we kind of can normalize that hurt. Because, a lot of psychological thrillers, there might be about a disloyalty. So it might be a partner, a spouse, or a
yeah.
friend. You know, that's why they're psychological thrillers. Because if it was, a stranger coming off the street and doing something awful to you, you kind of go, yeah, you're all right, that's awful, but you're a stranger. So that was bad
Yeah.
luck. If it's somebody who does something awful to you and they're close to you, that is so much more wounding. Even if they
Yeah.
don't physically hurt you, but they
It's a
mentally
betrayal.
hurt you or emotionally hurt you, it's a betrayal. And then the other things that are interesting to deal with is how people become obsessed with each other.
Mm,
And I think that's interesting in psychological thrillers. So I think we're in a world where it's very easy to follow people. I mean, we use that term, don't we? Oh, I have followers
yeah.
on
I'm just
Instagram.
following so and so.
Yeah. So again, if you were followed in the street, that is one type of very serious physical threat. But there is also a different type of following or obsession or fear that can be, explored now in psychological thrillers, which is if somebody starts to kind of follow you on your socials, or they sort of want to mimic you, or they want to
Mm,
become you. And I think there's a lot of very fertile ground there for writers
yeah.
such as you and I.
I agree. But before I go on to ask you about your 25th, which is amazing, 25th book, I have this question for you. What piece of advice do you wish you'd been told earlier in your career?
When I was 25, I think, sort of, so I said randomly 25 because, just about half my age. But I think I'd have wanted myself to worry less. I
Mm,
think I would have wanted to say, I picked 25 because I have a 25-year-old son.
yeah.
And I'm always telling him, because he is a bit like, he's very like me. He works like crazy, workaholic, gets a lot of his self-worth, I think, through work. And I want to kind of say to him, and do say to him frequently, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. You're amazing. And people will see you're amazing.
Yeah.
Because people aren't stupid, and you genuinely are a good human being. This is what I'm saying to him. So I think I would have quite liked that advice myself. Not that I want someone to go, oh, you're amazing. But I think I would have wanted people to say, the right people will see you. You will have friends. You will have colleagues.
You'll be
You
okay.
will have the love of your life. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And trust in that. But also part of me is really glad I didn't get, that advice, because I wouldn't want to change a thing of where I am now.
Mm,
And I believe in the butterfly wing effect. If you
yeah.
change one thing, if you're given that
It'll
advice,
have an effect.
might I have just sat back then and gone, whoa, life's going to be great. I'm not doing a thing. And then maybe I wouldn't be here. So
Mm,
I think I would just say to people, in my world, I've seen the harder I work, the luckier I've got.
yeah.
But the luckiest thing in my world is the relationships I have. So maybe that's what you work hard at.
Yeah.
And I don't mean, your partner necessarily. I mean your friendships, your
Mm.
family, your child, that.
Right. So Adele, before I actually ask you, Were you know when you started writing Our Beautiful Mess, was it in your head that this is your 25th book, or was
Yeah.
it just I'm just right? It was.
Yeah, I was very aware it was going to be my 25th book, and I was definitely going to go back to Connie and her gang. And that is because I promised a very random person in one of my very first audiences a million years ago, or 25 years ago. So when I was promoting Playing Away, obviously all my audience were in their late 20s, early 30s, because that's what it was about. And there was one woman in the audience who'd come with her daughter, and she was the age I am now. And she came up to me, and I remember really clearly, and she grabbed my hand and she went, "That book was hilarious. I loved it." She said, "I can't wait to see Connie go through the menopause." And I was like, mind blown. Because that woman wasn't my target audience necessarily, but loved my work. Lesson 1. Lesson 2, she believed that character so much she thought she was going to get older. 3, she had just said menopause out loud 25 years ago. What the fuck? Nobody did
No
that
one
then.
did. No.
Yeah. So, but all those things, I remember going, okay. Well, in that case, if I'm still writing in 25 years, I will do that for you, you lovely human being. Now, I don't know who that woman is or where she's gone in the world or whatever, or if she's ever read another one of my books again. But if she has, I would like to think she's read this book and that I did visit Connie 25 years ago. Not that her menopause is mentioned, but we just know she's an adult woman with 3 almost adult children who are in a very dangerous world. You know, the book's about Connie sort of getting ready for Christmas. She's, you know, it's about this time of year. She's super excited that the girls are going to come home from uni and she's going to have all her little chicks back in the nest. And one of them is bringing home her boyfriend for the first time. She's excited about young love being back in the house and all that. And you could be forgiven for thinking, oh, Adele's gone back to like Chicklet, you know, and she's going to give me that. Except there's a shooting and somebody is bleeding out and you go, okay, no, Adele's not doing that. Adele's pulling off people again. Connie's daughter brings home her boyfriend. The minute Connie sees him, she knows he's trouble. She doesn't quite know how or why, but she knows he's linked to her past and he's a danger because of that. As it happens, there are a number of people in that Christmas household with secrets and problems, and we're very swiftly moved into sort of a London underground world that, you know, your lovely Notting Hill middle classes are not expecting to bump up against on Christmas Eve, but they do. And so, yeah, I always knew that's what I was going to be writing, and I loved writing it, and it really felt like a 25th book. I felt like I was bringing everything together, all those joys that I had writing, you know, my romantic comedies, and all the depth and darkness I have writing psychological thrillers, and I was able to mush them together and deliver this book that actually I do think so many other authors have got behind. And, you know, and it has been out months now in hardback, and it was an instant times top 10 and all those good things. But I think it is because, you know, key fans have been waiting for it. Plus new fans feel the confidence of it, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty happy with it, which is terrifying. Wow. Book 26, can I tell you? That's so a writer, isn't it? Hey, I'm happy with this one, so I'm worrying about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is just the writer's life.
It is.
Right, Adele, I have 2 questions to ask you about the book. Did you face any challenges when writing Our Beautiful Mess?
I think all writers do and should feel challenges all the way along. I'm 25 years in, I've done it many times. So now I have the confidence to know I will finish the book. It will get to an end. So that is a nice tick that I didn't always have when I was younger. But that doesn't mean you don't question yourself and push yourself and wonder if the twists are good enough. And it's apparently now everyone keeps going, oh my gosh, this book is so twisty. I remember at one point looking at it and going, does this have enough in it? Has this got plot? Is this just me? You know, is this enough? And yeah, and also there was a real challenge of, I know these characters so well, but you could be coming to my book for the very first time and know nothing about Connie and her kids and her husband and her old lover and her friends. And therefore I have to present all that information fairly succinctly, because there might be other people who don't want to hear it all again because they do know it. So there was that crafting challenge that had to happen. Plus I decided to set it in like a sort of 10 or 11 day period to give myself one of those counting clocks. I think are
Yeah,
really
moments.
psychological thrillers. I think that's quite the countdown. Everyone knows. So the book begins saying the end, and you see this shooting and this bleeding out, and you know it's someone's end. You just do. And then you turn over and it says, you turn the page over and it says 11 days before. And then it's 9 days before, 7 days before, 3 days before, the end. So you know you're getting there.
Yeah.
And I
It's the
wanted
tension.
that tension. But that was quite tricky to write.
It's not easy.
No. Which is good. It shouldn't be easy.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you could spend an afternoon with any of your characters in Our Beautiful Mess, whom would you choose and why?
It would be Lucy. So Lucy's quite a small character in this particular book. She has been a lead character in another book of mine in the past. But she is such a phenomenally confident, sussed woman. You know, she knows. She comes up with instant one-liners that obviously in real life it's taken me 3 days to think of. And I want to be with the woman who can come up with the instant one-liners. She is a loyal friend. She, she isn't intimidated by anything or anyone, but she's quiet and calm and understated with her loyalty. She's not the one going, look over here, I'm singing and doing a tap dance. She's the one that goes, I'm just going to slide in that solution and help you all out. And I think she'd just be really a great ball breaker to sit around the table with. She'd be hilarious.
Okay. Right. Now these are my final questions for you, which is a shame because I love talking to you.
I know.
Okay. So Adele, are you an introvert, extrovert, or a hybrid of the two?
I'm definitely a hybrid. So I'm incredibly confident in many social circumstances, very confident in my presenting, very confident with meeting new people. I don't mind walking into a room and introducing myself. I expect, I don't have those kind of problems. But my favorite socializing is one-on-one rather than a party. So I'm not really good at parties because I don't get the depth. At parties, you kind of tend to go, hi, hello, have you had the canapes? Oh, nice, yeah. And that doesn't suit me. Yeah, and then you move on. And that doesn't suit me. I like big talk, not small talk. I want to dive in deep. So I throw a big party every Christmas and I invite loads and loads of friends because I never see any of my friends enough. And I love watching them connect. And at the end of the party, they all go, oh my gosh, I talked to so-and-so, they're amazing, and that person's good, and that person's good. And I expect that because I expect my friends to be great because they're fabulous human beings. I'm so lucky to have them in my life. But at the end of the party, I'm a bit like, I didn't get enough time with them. So actually, I just fill my diary, go, can we go out for dinner? Can we go out for coffee? Can we go? So because I like a
those one-on-ones.
Yeah, one-on-one or one-on-two. And and also I'm not good at doing back-to-back-to-back events. Also, I'm not good on like going on holidays with people. I need except for my family. I'm not good on those girl trips. Like there's a thing. There's like a pressure. Do you go on girl trips? I didn't have hen weekends or anything like that because I can't keep up the social intensity 24 hours a day. So I think that might be a bit introverty. I need to go and recharge my battery.
Okay. What challenge or experience, and I say good or bad, in your life shaped you the most?
I think the ones I've talked about. I think the early dealing with grief. And, I realize now, by the way, that I was lucky because I realize now as an adult, older adult, that people lose much worse and much younger. They lose parents, they lose children. These were things like grandparents, uncles, colleagues. These weren't my absolute nearest. So I realize now that I was super lucky, but at the time it seemed hard. And I suppose my divorce. So my divorce, I like to think, and I think if you talk to my ex-husband, he would agree, we had the world's most civilized divorce. We loved each other dearly when we got married, and we loved each other almost as dearly when we divorced. Not quite. And we have maintained that relationship despite needing to go our separate ways for various reasons. We have maintained that respect, and that took some doing because it wasn't my choice. This divorce was not my choice. It was presented to me, shall we say. he chose. So
Whenever someone says presented, I just think of EastEnders and Den and Angie. I'm not saying it was the same thing when he gave her the divorce papers at Christmas.
But it wasn't that far.
Oh,
It was
okay.
very much like, I'm not happy anymore, I'm off. And I was like, I thought we were deliriously happy. Well, what the heck? So it was a shock. But I had a tiny baby. My baby wasn't even a year old. And it changed everything. It changed sort of my view of my life was going to be, I was going to have 4 kids and live in the country. And that's going to be very much my world. And I've had 1 child. And, that is now my world, all because of my reaction to the divorce. But I believe I managed it really well. And I believe that because very recently it was my son's birthday and my ex was, my husband was there and my ex was there. My ex's family were there and we were all one big family and it worked. So that we pulled it off.
Yeah, you pulled it off. Okay, so I've changed because you answered what you'd say to your 25-year-old self. But what has your publishing journey taught you about yourself?
That's a really good question. What has my publishing journey taught me about myself? I think it's taught me that, well, it's obviously taught me I can write. Hurrah. Good for me. And that, I think it's taught me to have a voice. I know that sounds stupid, but the whole point of being a writer is to have a voice. But a writer's voice is on the page. And and I think at the beginning when I started out, I thought that was the only place I was allowed a voice, on the page. And that was my story. And anything else, I had to do what anyone else wanted. I had to have the cover that someone wanted. I had to go to the event someone wanted. I had to present as a certain type of writer because someone wanted that. As my journey has gone on, I realized that is not true. To be the Adele Parks author, the brand, I can be entirely me. I can sort of say, oh, that cover doesn't suit me, or I really want to go to that event and I really don't want to go to that one. And I don't care if it takes me 4 hours to talk to my queue of people. That is what I want to do. Yeah. I don't mind if we're very late getting home. That is my choice, rather than going, oh, I'm going to leave my readers because the publicist wants me on a train, or, I've started to have a voice, and that has gone into every other aspect of my life, I think. So I think I have a voice in. Maybe you just have to get old. But anyway, older. But yeah.
But it's not easy though, because I've had a lot of conversations. I don't know why it's been this year. A lot of conversations this year with other writers. And it's always kind of started with, do you think I can say this? Like to their editor, to their agent. Do you think I can ask that? Do you think it'll be all right to call? And I'm like, yes.
You can say anything. You can say anything. And they might say to you, actually, that's not something you need to deal with. Don't worry about it. We've got that. And when I'm told that, I go, okay, that's brilliant, because there is a team of really clever professionals doing what they want to do. But I look back at my career, and this is quite a fun one to end on. But I remember at one point I was asked to lick ice cream while 3 topless men, we're already going, what? Were surrounding me. And then they wanted to pick me up and carry me sort of, like, above their heads for a photo opportunity. And I was about 37, and I eventually sort of went, I really feel uncomfortable. But it took me it was like a whole morning going, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want, and these men were really young. I was 37 and these men were like 18, 19, 20.
Oh, God.
And I just thought the whole thing was mortifying because they were young models,
Yeah.
And in the end, I went, look, I'm not doing this. And they were like, oh, but we were doing like a co-branding thing with an ice cream. And the idea was my books are so hot, cool off with the ice cream and that kind of thing. And I was just like, everyone knows my books are hot. I do not need to be surrounded by semi-naked men. I just don't need it. So that was me learning to use my voice.
Yeah. Okay, we were talking about this before we officially started recording, and it is your non-writing tip for writers.
Yes, my non-writing tip for writers: don't work in December.
I love it.
Certainly don't try and work at all in the last 2 weeks of December. I used to try and take the summer off, because the summer off was when my kid was at school and it made sense, which meant I worked to Christmas Eve, and then I'd probably start again on day after Boxing Day. And that was necessary because I was, a mum of a young family, and that was what kind of worked. And at Christmas, there were other people to amuse him, but in the long summer holidays, there weren't.
Yeah.
But now, that's not true. So now I can structure my year differently. And now I work in the summer because honestly, the summer's great. So even if you have to do a few hours work, you can then go and sit in the garden and it's sunny and you feel great. But I don't work in December because December is so stressful and so busy and there are so many demands, and it shouldn't feel like that. It should feel like the celebration Christmas is supposed to be. And that can't happen if you're doing all the family stuff that you need to do, all the friendship catching up that you need to do, all the present buying you need to do, and a full-time, very intensive creative job. It's tricky. So I don't do work in December.
When you said it, I was like, really?
Yeah,
oh
great.
my God. Because I'm sitting there trying to work.
Don't do it. Give yourself a holiday. Everyone else, normal people, go on holiday at Christmas.
Well, I think the thing with me, I was saying to you, I take August off. And I think it goes back to when I was practicing law.
Yeah.
Was the fact that up until Christmas Eve, I would still be going to court. And then normally in the new year, I'd have a trial. So I'd have to be at some point during the Christmas, I'd have to prepare for a trial. So when I was freelancing, I'd always try and take August off. And I think I've just kind of carried that through into my writing.
Whatever works. Yeah, but my personal tip is give yourself Christmas off and go and do lovely things, which I have to say is what I'm doing today. After we've had this call, I'm popping into London, having a lovely lunch. I've been in London every day this week, various lovely lunches and dinners and catch-ups. I'm obviously going to be full of cold because I'm on the commute all the time, but fine.
Well, I told myself I don't do events in December. That's what I started doing from last year. So I don't do events, and I don't do the last. Obviously, I don't work the last 2 weeks of December. Now I'm thinking I might just
December off. Honestly, I probably just ruined the publishing world's calendar by just going, "Hey, people, take December off." Woo!
It's good advice. So finally, Adele Parks. Even though I'm sure people can find you, but for the one or two who have no idea where they can find you, where can they find you online?
They can find me on Instagram and Facebook. I think I still do have a Twitter account, but I haven't really posted for... You see, I still got it Twitter, X. I haven't posted for a long, long time on there, but I am very much on my Instagram and my Facebook. So that's just on Instagram, it's Adele_Parks. And on Facebook, it's Adele Parks Official. It's only me who runs it. All the comments are mine. I answer as many comments as I possibly can. I would go as far as saying I answer all the comments. You can tell because they're always littered with typos, which probably shocks me. But, it's very real. It's very me. And I love meeting people there. Also, do sign up to my newsletter, which if you go onto my website, adeleparks.com, if you sign up to my newsletter, you get a free little ebook, very, very slim ebook, just for saying thank you for being interested. And I send out about every 6 weeks. I say that, maybe every 2 months. I send out a newsletter. Yeah, all right. I send out a newsletter sometimes. Yeah, okay. Anyway, you will get.
I wasn't saying anything. I was just like, I say quarterly. That's when I do mine. So I'm like, why. I'm not. Yeah, I said I'm not.
Quarterly and around launch a bit more to tell people about the dates of where I might be. Yeah,
exactly. Well, that just leaves me, Adele Parks, to say thank you so much for being part of the conversation.
Well, thank you, Nadine. I've had the best time. You're just obviously so easy and lovely to chat to, and so thank you for your time and inviting me here.
Thank you so much for watching the Conversation podcast. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss a conversation. And if you'd like to catch up on more conversations, you'll find them linked on your screen now. And you can also listen to the podcast on your favourite platform. See you there. Bye.